With Bulwark getting the Thunderhammer, where does that leave Assault? In an interview on IGN, they confirmed that Bulwark will be getting the Thunderhammer at the cost of their shield, which is wild. I could do an entire other video talking about that, to be completely honest. At the moment, the only class with access to that weapon is the Assault, which has already felt like it has been lagging behind the other classes for some time now. So, interesting. Yeah, I know Assault balance has been on the radar of discussion recently. I've been talking about this class for a bit because I've been playing a lot of it. Now, they are talking about the class itself lagging behind. And ultimately, you know, everyone knows that the sustainability for Assault is pretty bad. So, in tougher difficulties, that's a very important aspect to continue pushing without using too much resources. But I think also they're kind of implying here that the Thunderhammer is pretty bad because the Assault uses it. No, they're not really implying that, but I think it's kind of an interesting discussion to have with the Thunderhammer considering how slow it is. Is the Thunderhammer going to be good in siege mode? Will the Thunderhammer end up needing a buff because of this Bulwark change? Okay, let's finish the post before I start theorizing here. Do you guys think there will be some compensation for this change, or will Hammer Bulwark be so much of a meme that it isn't worth running? Okay, yeah, so they do kind of imply that they think the Thunderhammer is falling behind other weapons. And you know what? If that is the question, where the Thunderhammer is in the hierarchy of melee weapons, yeah, it is the last one, isn't it? That's unfortunate. Now, the Thunderhammer is in a weird spot because it is a slow weapon that also doesn't have too much animation canceling. So going for charge attacks with that weapon is incredibly risky, at least if you compare it to the Power Fist. I've been using like weird versions of the Power Fist recently because I've been leveling up. I've been using like green balanced versions, even like I don't know, some of the other versions are weird too, so it's hard to like just ramble off the top of my head about it. But yeah, so the charge attacks for the Power Fists are surprisingly fast, and I think overall you get more DPS out of them because you're throwing out more charge attacks with the Power Fist than the Thunderhammer. Now, the Thunderhammer does have a pretty good blocking variant, and what really makes the Thunderhammer work is the Ground Slam. The Ground Slam for Assault will one-shot Majorus in higher difficulties if you build around it. You can easily put up like Ground Slam's damage. You can increase it over like 50% or something crazy with a blocking Thunderhammer that can also increase its damage with blocking stacks. So I do think Thunderhammer's pretty good. Is it good enough for Bulwark at the moment? No. No shot can the Bulwark. Honestly, the Bulwarks are going to be using fencing Thunderhammers, and they're going to get eaten alive by ranged attacks because they don't have the jetpack dodge, they don't have the slam to make use of the heavy DP or the heavy damage from the weapon, and the weapon itself is so slow. I cannot imagine a Bulwark swinging that thing in the middle of a mob. Seriously, they're going to get punished the entire time. Now, if the Thunderhammer was to get buffed for the Bulwark, I think that's the interesting conversation to have here, because I'm not too sure how I would do that, to be completely honest. There's really no way you can buff the Thunderhammer to put it in a position with other melee weapons without making it feel like the other melee weapons. Like, do you increase the time for the charge, or do you decrease the time for the charge attack to make it faster? I guess, but wouldn't that look pretty weird, a really fast charging Thunderhammer? Or at the very least, maybe, you know, like how he does the actual charge for the attack, sometimes you can overcharge attacks. Maybe make that a bit quicker? Maybe just increase the charge attack damage? Honestly, I feel like the one good change you could have with a Thunderhammer is if the ground slam damage from that weapon, if that was also pretty close to what you get from the charge attack, because I feel like the charge attack is just a little bit extra damage of the regular swing sometimes. Sometimes with the Thunderhammer, just throwing some light attacks can take out a major pretty well. It really depends if it's a 1v1 situation though. So let me know in the comments if you guys have any ideas with the Thunderhammer. I'm going to go through the comments here. Hopefully people are talking about potentially buffing the Thunderhammer, but I do understand the devs also mentioned that, you know, adding new weapons to classes could feel a little unbalanced as far as weapon restrictions go. Taking off the shield for the Bulwark is definitely going to be pretty weird, so yeah, we're definitely going to see an adjustment for the Thunderhammer if they want to make it work for the Bulwark at all. So yeah, let's go in the comments to see if anyone has any good suggestions. Let me know in the comments if you have a good idea to how to buff the Thunderhammer. I mean, they gave everyone Assault Pistol, the heavy bolt pistol. Yeah, I mean, it's a good weapon, and honestly, it should go to everyone, I guess. Anyone who can make use out of it. Gave Assault Power Sword. Yes, the Assault does have the Power Sword. And are going to give the Bulwark the hammer at the cost of a shield. Okay. If he wants to be an Assault with no jump pack, then be my guest, but I doubt I will ever see a Bulwark running hammer. Also, Assault is a high-functioning class, but his style is so different from other classes, people often don't play him correctly. That's why majority call him lackluster. Yeah, this... I kind of like this whole, yeah, since we've been talking about Assault's balance recently, it's kind of funny seeing everybody kind of have their own unique approach to it and, like, their own unique perspective. Because ultimately there's the side where it's like Assault's bad, and then there's the side that Assault's good, it's just hard to play. So it's kind of funny seeing people, you know, kind of navigate that. But interesting, yeah, I mean, yeah. I think it's more about the fun factor. I know I had some comments that were pretty much worried about how effective the Bulwark would be with the Thunderhammer. And yeah, I think everyone is concerned about it. Some people are, you know, kind of interested in trying it out. I am interested in trying it out, but I can imagine you're just going to build around a fencing Thunderhammer, and it's going to be, yeah, you're pretty much just going to be aura farming the entire operation because of how cool you're going to look with the Thunderhammer. A Bulwark with the Thunderhammer does look cool. But it's kind of weird, you know, like, now that I'm thinking about it, the Assault's animation definitely pulls out the Thunderhammer with one hand, like a handful of times. And not to mention, the Bulwark shield anyway is on his left hand, and he carries a gun with the left hand. So, I don't know, how's he even carrying the shield right now with two hands, you know, filled with weapons? Whatever, whatever. Let's not think about that too much, but, yeah, Bulwark with the Thunderhammer is definitely going to need an adjustment one way or the other. An Assault with the Power Sword is much more impactful than a Bulwark with the Thunderhammer. Now, if Saber would only fix that missing ground impact effect with Power Whirl, I would be so pleased for my Assault. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't notice the effects in the operations. I notice the effects when, you know, you're in the training grounds, but in the operations, there's normally so much on my screen. Like, seeing just one effect from the Power Whirl isn't really a deal breaker. However, I do also would like to see that. I would like to see them improve the effects of the Power Whirl for the Power Sword on Assault. Like, of course, if it's broken, fix it, you know. But it's not like a deal breaker. An Assault with the Power Sword is much more impactful than a Bulwark with the Thunderhammer. Well, we don't really know. But I think we have a good guess. Yeah, Power Rake and the Power Sword in general, I think it's in a really good spot right now. I've been playing Power Sword Assault a couple times recently, and I think it's very good. I think it's very, very good. Power Whirl definitely helps out dealing with gaunts. Power Rake with the Plasma Pistol or the Heavy Bolt Pistol, all you really need is one or two Power Rakes and a Gun Strike, and yeah, you're ready for an execution on a major. The Assault right now is in a good spot. I think the class is in a good spot. I just think, yeah, it's hard to play, and yeah, it does start to fall off in higher difficulties because of sustainability and the overall chip damage of the game. However, you can still support that with Unmatched Zeal, Bonds of Brotherhood, Invigorating Icon, you know, that sort of thing. Advanced Conditioning, even. But the thing is with Bulwark with the Thunderhammer, the Power Sword received buffs. The Power Sword received buffs. Will the Thunderhammer also receive buffs for this? I think it should, and I gotta be honest, I think if you just buff the Thunderhammer's damage, which is wild, the damage for the Thunderhammer is already breaking the card. It's already too much for the card. So even if you increase the Thunderhammer damage, it's insane. You know what though? Maybe instead of the base attacks, just buff the running attacks and the charge attacks. You don't have to worry too much about speed. Just try to buff those attacks to make sure they hit very hard. Make sure they're worth the trade. You know what I mean? Make sure the Thunderhammer is out damaging. Well, I want to say out damaging bone swords, because if you consider absolute difficulty scaling, Thunderhammers would be one-shotting. One-shotting with light attacks. Yeah, I would like to see the Thunderhammer buffed in their unique attacks. Any of their light attacks is fine. I get it. You're not supposed to play the Thunderhammer like a regular melee weapon, but the running attacks are pretty pathetic. Sometimes they stun, which is nice, but you can also get the gun strikes from gaunts with it, so that's pretty good. But I'm looking at it more for a way to make sure that Bulwark can get use out of it. I do believe Bulwark has some poise perks. I believe Bulwark has a perk where they can, shake off heavy hits if they have armor. So I think that's a pretty good start with the Thunderhammer's charge attacks, because if you do end up buffing the charge attacks for Thunderhammer to make sure they do extra damage, I can see the Bulwark actually getting some trades. I can definitely see that happening. I think that's one of the best ways to build the Thunderhammer around Bulwark to make sure that it's effective. And even if you buff the running and the charge attacks for the Thunderhammer, there's still unique attacks that are that will be weird to just spam the entire time. The running attacks are actually pretty good, but they just don't really do a lot of damage. And the charge attacks are going to put you in pretty bad situations, especially as Bulwark, considering that, at least the Assault can use jetpacks to dodge and the Slam for extra damage. Bulwark is just going to be sitting there with the Thunderhammer. So we really have to find things in its kit that can, basically complement the Thunderhammer. So yes, I think buffing the running attacks and the charge attacks would be where you need to go in order to make the Thunderhammer feel at least viable for Bulwark when it comes to higher difficulties. Because as it is right now, I don't think it will be worth it in lethal or absolute. You would just be getting so much punishment. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, we will see what the devs decide. I know they talked about reworking some perks, but for patch 8, but they didn't mention any of that in the community update. They only just told us how Horde or Siege mode worked. So hey, we will see. Let me know in the comments if you have any good ideas with Thunderhammer. Do you think I am, am I cooking or am I missing the ball on this? Is the Thunderhammer okay? Should the Thunderhammer be buffed so it is more useful on Bulwark? Let me know in the comments if you guys have any good ideas for Thunderhammer buffs. Thanks for watching.